Thank you so much. And it is happy to meet with friends in Slovenia. I have been about 10 times in Slovenia. So I have been there several times, not recently, but I love your country and it is important what you are doing. And let me talk about the most important thing we can do, which is to cure aging, to work towards the death of death, which is the title of my latest bestseller. And let's put this in the context of COVID, because COVID is an age-related disease. And we can see that the people who die mostly are older people, and not just with COVID, with all other diseases. And so there has been in history many pandemics. Probably the worst one was the Black Death, the bubonic plague that killed, it is estimated, a third of the European population. It was incredible. A third of all Europeans were supposed to die because of a Black Death. But there are many others, like the Spanish flu, which was not a Spanish, by the way, that killed up to 50 million people, or HIV AIDS, which is getting close to 40 million people dying. So COVID has killed 2.5 million people, which is a tragedy, but it is small compared to other pandemics. And look at the economic impact and what governments have done, investing trillions of dollars, trillions, to counterattack COVID, and companies investing billions of dollars. And I repeat, for this small pandemic in historic terms. So if we are putting all this money and all this effort in COVID, imagine what we should do against aging, because aging is the mother of all diseases. Aging is the main cause. Aging is the number one risk factor of everything: influenza, cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, of everything, because aging, many people are considering now the mother of all diseases. In fact, let's imagine that we could cure cancer. If we cure all cancers, we might extend lifespan for maybe 3 years. If we cure all heart diseases, maybe 4 more years. And we cure both cancer and heart disease, 7 years. But if we cure aging, we could add decades and decades of life, healthy life. So the problem is not just COVID or cancer or heart disease. The problem is aging. And that is why 3 years ago, another scientist, David Good, who studied at Cambridge, England, and me, who studied at Cambridge, Massachusetts. I am an engineer from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. We decided to write about the number one issue in the world, which is aging and death. That is really the number one problem of humanity today. And so we published our bestseller first in Spanish. Now it is already on the second edition, coming on a third edition soon. It came out in Portuguese. It has become a bestseller in Spain and Latin America, both number one and number 5 simultaneously at the same time. Number 1 in paper, number 5 in Kindle, electronic format, in Portuguese, in Brazil also number 1 best-selling book. And now it just came out in French, La Mort de la Mort. And next month it comes out in Russian, and in 2 more months it comes out in Chinese. And by the end of the year in Turkish. So I am really excited how the book is coming out in many languages, and more languages hopefully next year. I am donating also all the royalties, all the income from the book to scientific research towards longevity, half in the USA with the Sense Research Foundation, where Aubrey de Grey actually works, and he wrote the prologue of my book, and also 50% of the money to a scientific foundation in Spain. Why Spain? Well, because I live in Spain for one thing, and also because Spain has the second longest life expectancy among major nations in the world today, only after Japan. Japan is #1, and then Spain. But Spain is supposed to overtake Japan as the longest living society in the next 2 decades because of the accelerated aging and good life in Spain, Mediterranean diet, and other things. Also, there are great scientists like Maria Blasco, who was one of the lead scientists on the most famous study on aging ever, the hallmarks of aging. And she has said publicly that it could be possible to live hundreds of years. And another incredible Spanish scientist who is at Salk Institute in California, Juan Carlos Ispizua Belmonte, who is working on rejuvenation as well, using many techniques like the Yamanaka factors. So it really is incredible what some scientists, including Spanish scientists, are doing both in Spain and outside Spain. And many ideas are becoming more and more known, like what we say that by 2045, we might become immortal. This is what we call also the technological singularity. The idea was popularized by my MIT friend, Ray Kurzweil, on his book, The Singularity is Near. And he's just ready to launch his new book, The Singularity is Nearer, because it is closer. We are moving faster towards the singularity by the year 2045. And I was one of the founding faculty with Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis of Singularity University at that time at NASA Ames in Silicon Valley in California, and with the support of many companies like Google, Cisco, and many others. And so we basically talk about 2 dates, 2 important dates, 2029 and 2045, because there is a technological convergence of all the major technologies, nano, bio, info, and cogno, towards 2 big things happening. By 2029, we expect to reach longevity escape velocity, which means that if we make it for about 10 more years, we will live long enough to basically live forever. Because by 2030, for every year we survive, we gain an extra year of life, because life expectancy is increasing. It continues to increase, and it will increase farther and farther, but still aging. And that we will solve by the year 2045, when we expect to have rejuvenation technologies to make people younger. So it doesn't matter how old we are when we reach 2045, the objective is to rejuvenate people. And why? Because everything is changing exponentially, faster, smaller, cheaper, and better. And I can tell you my personal experience 40 years ago when I took my first computer classes, we had the IBM punch cards, which were 1K of memory, 1K of memory. And then we had the first floppy disk, 8 inches big, also 1K. And now we have a small pen drives, which are 1 tera. This is 1 tera. So we have gone from 1K to 1 tera, and this will continue, but not just in computing science, also in biology and medicine. And look what has happened with the sequence of the human genome that began in 1990, and after 13 years, it finished, costing over $1 billion just for the US government, and 13 years of time. Today, in 2021, we are close already to $100 to sequence the complete genome and do it in 1 hour. And we hope that in 5 years, it will cost $10 and you will do it in 1 minute. This is incredible. This is very exponential in terms of cost and exponential in terms of time, even more exponential than the famous Moore's law for computers. So more and more people are realizing that aging is or can be considered a disease. There is no agreement, but I do believe it is, or it should be called a disease, but a curable disease, And look at what has been done in the last few years. We have been able to almost double the life expectancy of mice, multiplied by 4 the life expectancy of flies, mosquitoes, and multiply by 10 the life expectancy of some nematodes, some worms, like the C. elegans, that live now the equivalent of 1,000 human years, equivalent. So they are the Methuselah worms because they live like Methuselah 1,000 years. And this has been done in the last few decades. So imagine what we will do in the next few decades. And why? Also, because we know that immortality already exists in biology. And this was actually verified in 1951, 70 years ago, 1951, when Henrietta Lacks, a patient, died of cancer. And the scientists discovered that the cancer did not age. It did not die of old age. Actually, her cancer is still alive today. And the HeLa, because of Henrietta Lacks, cells are the most famous cells in all of biology throughout the world. There are tons and tons of HeLa cells all over the planet, tons and tons. She's like the heaviest human ever in history. And her cancer cells actually have already past the age of 100 years because she was born in 1920. So last year, her cancer cells became 100 years old, but they look like teenagers of 100 years. So cancer discovered how not to age, and cancer did not go to university. So if cancer discovered how not to age without going to university, we will discover that. But not only cancer is immortal, also the best cells, the reproductive cells, the germ cells that all of us have, they are also biologically immortal. That means that they do not age. They can die and they can be killed, but they do not age. So the proof that immortality is possible is that it already exists in nature. Germ cells are immortal. Cancer cells discover how to be immortal. And small organisms like Hydra are also considered biologically immortal. And even more important, the first life forms in the planet, bacteria, are biologically immortal. Bacteria that divide symmetrically are considered biologically immortal. The purpose of life is to live, not to die. And that is why life appeared to live. The purpose of life is more life, better life, healthier life, longer life, like bacteria that are biologically immortal. My friend Aubrey de Grey, who will be speaking, he has talked about this a lot in his book about almost 15 years ago when he was called a charlatan. Even MIT Technology Review from my alma mater called him a charlatan. But look how it has changed in 15 years from being called a charlatan to MIT Technology Review saying that old age is over and we are going to control aging. We are going to reverse aging because as Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, said, all truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed, and third, it is accepted as evident, and this will be accepted. Like my friend Ray Kurzweil also talks about it, a bridge to a bridge to a bridge to immortality by 2045. Big companies like Google are now saying that we can cure aging and death. It is a technical problem and it will be a technical solution. Microsoft also is trying to solve cancer. Mark Zuckerberg, he's saying that he will cure all diseases with his foundation, all diseases, including aging. And this is the growing ecosystem in the planet. And the Nobel Prize in medicine in 2012 was for cell rejuvenation. We know we can rejuvenate organisms. Many technologies, many things are happening. So this is exciting time to be alive. And I want to invite you to see this and to experience the future and to become younger, but not with a Russian app like Face app, but really with biotechnology. And I invite you to come to Madrid in October 2021 to talk about longevity and immortality with all the leading experts for a mythical presence, a mythical gathering in Spain. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll be happy to share more with you anytime later.